Hey, what's up, guys? It's Jace, and welcome to another exciting episode of the ELAV8 podcast. Today, it's just Sam and I solo sitting down to discuss the recent Wall Street bet movement, round 2, as well as we sit down and we discuss everything from communal living to how microtransactions and governance will affect the business models of the future. Is Wall Street thinks you're stupid, right? They think that you don't know what you're doing, and they intentionally make financial literacy incredibly hard. Right? They want you to think it's impossible to do what they do.
That's what he's marketing. He's marketing, I escaped and I can help you escape if you join with me to stick it to the man by investing in a video game stock.
Sam Mestman, how are you doing today?
Doing good, Jay Sparks. Everything's good, man. How the hell are you? This is, I think are we 10 or is this episode 11 now?
So it depends on how we release it, right? I was thinking about this on the way home today when I was driving home. It depends on if we discuss timely matters today. If we discuss timely matters, like, we may release this one first. So it's either 10 or 11.
Why don't we assume, because there's no guest today, we're going to probably talk about timely matters.
Okay, so this is 10.
Yeah, this is 10 then. All right. Episode 10. Here we go.
Okay.
Because, if we're going to talk timely, all right, look at you, looking ahead. Very responsible podcast host, Jace.
Dude, well, I mean, we should like hype up the next episode then, because I mean, what we recorded yesterday.
Wall Street bets. Game on.
Oh, you were talking about Wall Street bets. Okay.
Bets. Let's get in it. Let's go. I'm ready. I want to talk about this. So we couldn't yesterday, so it's back now because Jonathan, rightfully so, probably not a Wall Street bets guy. So, but I think we can go deep today. So this is all working out great because I wanted to talk about this and I felt like I couldn't necessarily. And we went a little over with his episode. So if you're listening to this and you just jumps right into Jonathan, we got rid of my dumb Wall Street bets thing. But I got diamond hands right now. I think we're going hard. I want to know what you think about this. Is this bullshit? And then I want to talk through Roaring Kitty as a marketing genius.
Okay, let's do it. Let's just dive in. Well, first of all, let's touch on, it's been 3 years or almost 3 years since the last run up, right? When this huge movement happened. It was so massive. In fact, we saw a movie produced about it called Dumb Money starring Paul Dano. Like, this isn't a trivial thing. This is a real world thing that a lot of people got behind.
My wife and I watched that movie and multiple documentaries around the same dumb subject, knowing the entire story, participating in it, having lived it, and knowing that it's fundamentally, probably not worth having a movie made about it. And yet we watched 3 of them.
Exactly. And you know why you watched 3 of them? Like, do you actually know the reductionist reason why?
I think, and tell me, I'm probably wrong, but it was a mixture of my fundamental, I was stick it to the man side mixed with I can't believe how fun this is, and how fun it is to stick it to the man. And that's why I enjoyed it so much.
Yeah. For the first time in history, right? You won, right? Like that. And retail won. What people forget, and maybe they don't forget it, maybe it's so in front of us, that's why we were all so excited, is Wall Street thinks you're stupid, right? They think that you don't know what you're doing, and they intentionally make financial literacy incredibly hard, right? They want you to think it's impossible to do what they do. And for the first time, we all came together and we won. And I mean, that's my opinion on why we were all behind it, is because you stuck it to the man. We all stuck it to the man.
Yeah, well, so think about this, right? So think about what might be brewing. And I just want to, let's just play this out just because it's fun and you're maybe the only person I can talk to about this, besides my wife, but I already know what she thinks. So fundamentally, Roaring Kitty has 1 million followers on Twitter right now. Mm-hmm. He is releasing meme after meme after meme. This is the greatest pro wrestling introduction I've ever seen, in terms of an entrance music for a dude returning to the game. But a thought occurred to me that all he has to say is that he likes the stock and this is not financial advice. And he could be leading an army of 1 million traders going stock to stock and be leveraging a massive amount of buying power in the market. and like literally doing jujitsu on the hedge funds to move and sabotage positions in real time.
Yeah. I mean, well, let's be a little bit more nuanced about it, right? Because like what you said at the very beginning was like the most important piece, right? Is like, how can we ensure the super wealthy, the super rich, and the super just like crazy capitalists lose? It isn't just about making money. And there's a great thing I read today is that there's a lot of retail traders that, obviously are trying to make money off of it, generational wealth, but there's a lot more that are holding on to this stock like it's a souvenir because they know if they hold it and they crush these short sellers, right, that it's going to just take the hedge fund community and bring them to their knees. And this is the first time that we as retail investors have the opportunity to do that.
100%. And that is, I think, like, first off, can lightning strike twice? I think there's a lot happening right in this moment because I've never been more pessimistic about the economy. I think when the economy drops, it's going to take crypto down with it for a minute. And yet we might be entering a total YOLO moment for meme stocks where like people might just be like, screw it. I'm just going to go play right now. So like, I feel like we're entering like an all bets are off zone. Do you agree or disagree?
I agree. I mean, and look, like something I want to like say to people that they may disagree with, but I firmly believe it, is that this is still the same movement. You said, can lightning strike twice, right? I genuinely believe this is the same lightning bolt. And the difference between then and now, right, is that they being the hedge funds and all the people that were super wealthy trying to shut this down, they were hoping we would sell. Because don't forget, is that they had to cover their short positions, right? They had to actually cover their short positions. So they tried to nuke the movement to bring the price and the volatility down so they could cover, right? This has been just a long waiting game. And the people that are deeply invested in the Wall Street bets movement, they never left, right? They held, they continue to hold. And they're still here and they're riding the continuous momentum from the wave that started 3 years ago.
And now it's back. And now Roaring Kitty is back leading with like really just the most impressive marketing campaign I have seen. Most companies should study this. It's absolute genius. So, I'm curious, like we're at a strange inflection point in time and they've already halted trading on GME, like right when he was back day one, multiple times.
Like 50
right?
times
Because,
between AMC
like,
and GME. Yeah.
So, like, how is that first off even legal possible at this point? Like, when you think about just like the absolute chicanery here that they haven't managed to figure out the network or bandwidth problems, I don't think that's the case. This is intentional. So, like, you're seeing this just on like full display, just like it's so transparent now what's going on, but I think everyone knows and they won't even be disappointed. But what might actually happen is they might even be immune to it, where they're like, yeah, they're just going to halt training and it's not even going to be a tactic anymore.
Yeah, correct. I mean, so just to put things in perspective for our listeners, is that there are circuit breakers in place, and that's a law, right? That essentially governs the stock market, that if there is a seismic shift, I think it's 10%. Is it 10%? I'll have to look it up. But it's a percentage of, if a stock moves, they have to legally stop and halt trading. That's to try to calm the market so it doesn't increase volatility. Because if you're a trader, volatility is good, right? If you're a trader and you're day trading, it's the best thing you can ever have because you're just watching the charts and saying, okay, I've hit resistance. I know I have to sell here. And you wait for it to hit, support when you start buying again, right? It's actually pretty easy to understand how to trade if you understand basic fundamentals of resistance and support. But yeah, so coming from a crypto mindset, right, in the millennial mindset and the Gen Z mindset is, yes, I agree with you that we are immune to this, like, I'm going to call it pragmatism, right? Is that we're used to the rule sets of now traditional Wall Street and we're just going to sit and hold.
So if that's the case, then there's no escaping this, but also then do you then find Wall Street wanting to eat itself by leveraging on top of these trades too and making them more powerful?
That's a great question. And what you're essentially talking about is derivatives, right? If you really think about it, like you just asked the most nuanced question ever, is because what they're doing is they're making bets upon bets upon bets at the moment, right? And in some instances, they're trading against themselves. Like they're hoping the price will go up, right? And instead of like, having their shorts and solely their shorts, right? They have their longs now where it goes up and they can sell and at least cover their shorts, right? It's getting really complex. And what's crazy, right, is I keep stuttering. The naked shorts that are actually within the market, meaning that they don't necessarily have those assets anymore, right? They literally just say, "Oh yeah, we have the shorts," and we're going on their word that they have that capital to back it. And naked shorting is so prevalent now that since they don't actually have the shares to short with, right? If this keeps on going up, right? And they don't have the ability to capitalize on it, they have to go into the market and further purchase more shares, which drives the price up even more, right? There's this parabolic movement that's happening, right? Where the really greedy, right? The really, really greedy that thought that there was no way they could lose, right? That no longer have the shares to play with are going to have this cyclical, like, as you just called it, just this vacuum that is going to suck more money into these stocks that actually have no value, and retail's going to win.
So the question is, right now we're recording this on a Thursday. GME is now back down to 27. But Roaring Kitty has not actually said anything official regarding GME. And really the question is whether it's GME at all that's going to be the target of this. But there's certainly, I think, a game to be played. And if the last few days are any indication, everyone really, really missed this. So, I think really the question is, are diamond hands coming back or not, Jace? Will this happen, or is the whole thing going to blow up?
Well, let's take a step back down into memory lane for a second. For us to understand what's happening now, we have to understand what happened in the future, right? History is the best teacher. I think you agree with that. And we've become really good friends over history, I would say, over the last 2 or 3 years, right? So the thing that's really captured my interest, in 2020 onward was the hopelessness that people felt that drove them into financial technology, right? The reason why crypto went up and meme stocks went up is, one, we had nothing to do. We were trapped inside. And remember, a lot of people lost their jobs. A lot of people, were in, financial pain. Grocery prices went insane. And so they were looking for any opportunity to better themselves, to better their financial situation. And that's why the financial markets started going up. People had disposable income, coming in from the COVID stimulus bills, right? And they were coming into their, life. And instead of spending it into the economy, they were trying to gamble on the stock market to turn that, what was it, $800 payment? I think that's what it was, and triple it, quadruple it. So that's point one I wanted to make, is we had a moment in time where a lot of people had disposable income in the stimulus bills that got injected directly into meme stocks and meme crypto, right? Yeah. So that's part one. Now, let's fast forward to today, right? We're arguably in a worse off situation, minus the whole COVID thing, but financially, we're basically worse off today than we are back during COVID. And we can look at inflation statistics. We can look at unemployment statistics. We can look at just the overall sentiment of people.
Biden says it's fine. Biden says everything's fine.
So can we talk about a statistic that they keep floating out there, right? That it's just really aggravating. They talked about overall GDP, right? And that was a victory for the Biden administration. Do you remember seeing that? They were floating that out there?
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's going up.
Okay. Do you know how and why it's going up?
No, I'm sure
because it is going up.
I'm about to get sad, I have a feeling.
You're going to be very sad. But take a guess. I want to see if you can guess. Think of something that's incredibly sad, right? And you might get it.
Is it going up in proportion to the national debt?
Well, that's interesting. That's interesting. I'm going to give you an A+, all right? Because you're right. You are right, but I'm going to be even more reductionist about it. It's going up because government spending's going up, right? That's how we determine GDP, is spending, right? And we are spending more as a government right? Therefore, GDP is going up, but they won't tell you that, right? They're giving you the illusion that GDP is going up when in fact our debt is going up.
Well, I've always found this interesting. What is your opinion on, like, if you think about all of this, what this whole like debt monster is, right? It's
Yeah.
about consuming resources, right? And if you think about what that really means, I mean, we literally call people in this country consumers.
Mm-hmm.
And so think about that terminology in the big picture, right? If you're going to talk about your nation as a nation of consumers, does that have a positive or negative connotation to you?
It's positive in the right context. It's negative in the wrong context, right? Like consumerism, right? If we're trying to feed a dopamine addiction is bad, right? If we're trying to feed into ego is bad. But consumerism in a mindset where we're trying to feed the needy, the poor, right? Where, we had a guest on the podcast a couple of weeks ago where you were talking about, farmland in essentially South Central, and that if we were to turn that farmland, and make it more habitable for South Central Los Angeles, and we were to do that, and we were pumping that consumerism of goods and services into that community, that would be a good thing, right? It's where are we on that?
I don't know that we're
today,
doing that.
I guess.
I don't think that we're using it to feed the poor. I think we're using it to literally feed more Amazon purchases and buying more shit we don't need. That is the definition of a consumer now, in my opinion.
Yeah. Well, that goes back to what I was saying about the dopamine addiction, right? We're all, at the end of the day, this sounds terrible, but it is true. We're all drug addicts. It's just that our drug of choice isn't necessarily, something that you can buy on the corner, right? It's our drug addiction is to our phones, right? It's to purchasing things, right? Just buying things in general gives you a dopamine rush. I'm guilty of that with the new iPad, by the way. But yeah, we are just so oversaturated with the need to satiate our serotonin that we have now become addicted to dopamine, and it's just everywhere and it's all the time.
So think about that, but really think about the idea that, okay, so you just described the gross domestic product, which is like the number one consumer metric, right? That the government loves to talk about, as in we're doing great, right? And that only goes up. And it basically sounds like when the government spends, that's what actually, when they spend out of proportion, that's what causes the debt. And if the goal of the government is to up the GDP, then they're incentivized then to go into debt. And what are they going to spend it on? They're going to spend it on their consumers that feed this economy that they need to maintain to be inflated so that they can tell everybody how great the economy is doing. So literally they have to feed the beast, and the beast is consumers. And what do beasts do? They consume, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you really think about what this is, right? It's like a blob that is just feeding on an environment, and it's called the GDP.
So I want to make one addendum to what you said, right? Which is we want spending to go up, right? But we also want inflation to come down, right? And this is why people are feeling pain right now, is that the second part of that, the latter part of what I just said, isn't happening. Inflation is not going down. And it's starting to freak out the Fed. It's starting to freak out the Biden administration. And, I'm always saying this, but I'm really apolitical. I don't actually have a problem with Trump or Biden. I just like to look at the lay of the land. And the problem right now is we're kind of going into what happened with the Carter administration, right? The Carter administration, major inflation, right? Debt was going up. And what happened was it Reagan? Yeah, Reagan came in and he's like, deregulation, right? We're now drifting into deregulation. And we're going to, really focus on what's happening in the local economy and really drive that home. So to bring it full circle, right, if history is our best teacher, right, and in this example, I think that what's going to happen is we're going to be forced into a deregulated environment. And the tiers that we're going to have to hit are going to be about the Green New Deal, everything that's happening with that. And I can go a little bit more in depth on that. Once again, I'm pro environment. If you look at my Instagram feed, you'll see I love going camping. I love the environment. It's not that I'm anti the Green Deal, but we do need to touch on that, as well as
Well,
financial
okay, so actually,
regulations and
I actually
BRICS.
want to be educated about the Green New Deal. I'm very for the environment too. I think you can be for the environment and maybe against a carbon tax. You know, you can be for the
Yes.
environment and against the way that some of these things are being dealt with. But what I'm curious about, you know, we'll just, because this is what we do, we'll just detour, and this is just a you and I episode. The Green New Deal. Does Jace think this is a smart thing, or is this something that is wrapped with a very positive label but actually very toxic?
I mean, it's not fair to be just so like, yes or no. It's not binary, right? And
Okay.
I know you're not that person, so I don't want to let people assume that. It's just what's happening right now. It's a moment in time. I genuinely believe there are things within the Green New Deal that are great, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the idea of it is a good idea. But let's like rewind for a second. Let's like really take a look at like Biden's report card relevant to certain decisions that his administration made, right? Through the forms of the SEC, as well as him canceling that pipeline. Remember the pipeline that they canceled right when he came into the office, right? That was probably one of the worst decisions in his administration. And the reason why it was so bad, like, remember, right? And I have to admit something. I'm going to give a caveat to this. There's no possible way he could have known the Russia Ukraine conflict would have happened, right? Let's just be fair. Like, maybe they did know, maybe they didn't. But, like, let's just have that in frame while we have this conversation. When
Well, if
that
he knew,
happened,
then
the
Trump
Ukraine
knew.
go ahead.
If he knew, then Trump knew.
Exactly. That's fair. Actually, that's a very fair point. I didn't think about that. But the point I'm trying to make, right, is when he canceled that pipeline, we were no longer energy independent. We didn't have a hope and a prayer to be energy independent,
Mm.
right? Which means we had to lean on the Saudis to ensure that our energy here in the United States would still be fundamentally possible, right? And we had our backs against the wall. We did, right? Not great, right? And I know why he did it. He thought EVs were the future. Let's start pushing into a more sustainable energy world, right? But that decision has now basically put our backs against the wall for the future until we can make these decisions happen. And one thing that I think he kind of underestimated, right, is he went to the oil refineries and he basically said, hey, we need you to modernize the refineries. And the refineries like, we know you're trying to shut us down. Why would we do that? Right? We don't have an incentive to modernize our environment when we know this administration is going to be toxic to oil, right? And that's just the Biden report card relevant to that, okay? Once again, I'm not trying to paint with a broad brush, but I'm trying to give people an idea of why that was a bad decision.
Well, look, I think you know more about this than I do, and for me, I want to look at the larger trend, right? So, is the future, Jason, your opinion, that we're looking to live in? Is it solar panels on every house that then use renewable energy to charge our EVs?
That's a great question. So it's a little bit more complex, but we're going to go a little bit deeper. All right, everybody looks at energy to a home as an omnidirectional relationship, right? Meaning it's only flowing towards the house, right? But people tend to forget that the wire between your house doesn't care. It doesn't discriminate against which way energy flows, right? So what's going to happen is that communities, not homes, but communities are going to create these microgrids that will then influence what's happening amongst these communities. And something I do think that we need to focus on, I feel like, and I want your opinion on this, I feel like our society has gotten too independent and we drifted away from community and communal living. I actually feel like we need to reverse that trend and we need to become more communal.
100%. Look, I think we've gone oddly. I think a lot of people are finding community doing some of this stuff. So they went around the world, to go find like-minded people that they couldn't find, But now everybody's very isolated, and there's not a lot of local organizations. I'm literally moving to Atlanta for this very reason because my wife and I. We're like, we had a community in Los Angeles and then, we did COVID and we're not going to find one outside of where we are, but we'd like to get outside of Atlanta to start picking up where that is because um, there is a lot to be said for a local environment where people get together. And I think everyone feels isolated digitally at this point.
Mm-hmm.
And, I feel like in a lot of, if maybe I'm speaking for myself, but I find a lot of the digital freedoms that we have to almost be more prisons than they are, freedoms.
I mean, I'm sure you've heard about 15-minute cities.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
So,
that mindset. But to put a button on that idea, because I want to make sure I finish it, is that if you look at cars, right, and what happened with the Prius, how it was a hybrid, it was a mixture of battery and gas.
mhm.
That's what I think we're going to basically drift towards, but in a more broader sense towards communities where you have a bidirectional grid where homes can look at some sort of brain and be like, oh, this house needs more energy at this moment, let's flow the energy towards that house, right? And as that grid expands and it becomes more intelligent and the systems are in place to help reroute energy, it's actually going to be better for the planet, not just the United States, because then we're less dependent on utilities. Like the utility company monopoly that exists within the United States is actually pretty predatory, right? And it's predatory for a myriad of reasons where we can go into identity. I know that I'm really passionate about that, is how you have to have essentially all this information to say I deserve electricity. You can't just like go in and say here's my credit card and that's it. Like you need a myriad of different things that say you can turn on your electricity. So I think that, if that makes any sense.
It does. And, so yes, we desperately need community. And I think I also want to get back to the energy side of things, because you were talking about how these grids of communities would connect into microcells, essentially energy wise. And I want you kind of to expand on that idea, because what popped into my head, right, is really you're talking about fundamentally it will probably, if you're in a good power cell or a good energy cell, it's going to mean you're not in poverty, and if you aren't in one, it means you probably are.
Fair enough. Yeah, there is kind of a separation. Okay. Okay, I'm going to unpack this on a very big level, and I'm going to drill into the nuance of it. Because first we have to understand how this is possible, and then we'll get into how it can expand, right? And it all boils down to, and I hope you laugh, it always comes back to fintech, right? And financial technology, right? Because you have to assign value to electricity in this new model, right? And the way that happens is by essentially attributing your energy that you're producing into microtransactions. And how can you facilitate microtransactions across your entire community? Because if you have something of value, people should either contribute to facilitating that, or they should pay you for that, right? If I've spent the money on my solar panels that are going into the rest of the community, I should be rewarded for spending that money until they're paid off, or whether or not I donate that electricity, etc.
Shouldn't your property taxes just pay for that, right? I mean, if you think about that, like,
Yeah.
shouldn't like your township probably be responsible for making sure the grid runs properly? And like, why do you need to have solar panels on the roof? Like, why can't you put them in a park? There's a lot of things that could easily be done.
I see
where, like, this could probably, what I actually envision, right? What I would love to see is townships, communities coming together to solve collectively, like, what is clearly better for the common good, which is how do you route like Ethernet? How do you manage energy efficiently and set that up in a smart way? How can you grow shared healthy food and vegetables, right? And why not just disperse those for free to people? Why do you even need a supermarket? It's dumb. And then also the other idea that I always had that makes no sense is determining reusable containers that come in and out of your community to manage some of this. Like, why do we have all of these containers that are fundamentally different sizes to deliver these things, extra postage, all of this stuff? It serves no actual purpose, where if you just standardized on delivery mechanisms and types of things, you would be able to carry these things in and out with significantly less waste. So all of these things I feel like could happen on the local level, and everyone would be universally better off. That'd be impossible, like also right down to managing water. So if that was to be the case, then you wouldn't really need all of these microtransactions, because fundamentally it's like if you viewed your community a little bit more like you're living in a shared environment, and I'm trying to find a good word, like it's like a kit, right? And every kit,
Mhm.
you want the best type of, like, these are teachable, repeatable things that every community needs, which is like clean water, quality food, quality energy, right? So this is a teachable, repeatable problem that could be solved community to community. So I guess the question is, like, why isn't it?
So to distill what you just said a little bit further, um, not every single microtransaction has to have a monetary value to it.
Okay.
What I'm basically talking about, there needs to be a ledger entry, right, that can assign value. Value can be volunteer work, right, but there is value associated with it. And the reason why there has to be a ledger entry somewhere along the supply chain, right? Supply chain meaning, let's say your example for creating a sustainable farm, right, where people, let's say, are volunteering to work the farm that are now giving away corn for free. Let's just say that's the example. Sustainable farm giving away corn for free. All right. Somewhere along the supply chain, you need governance saying that, okay, this community member, you're assigned X amount of hours or days or whatever amount of time to work, and this person time work. You finish that task, that ledger entry is now entered into the ledger, right? That's part one. The second piece is somewhere along the supply chain, there will be a monetary transaction, and it'll be in the form of pesticides, if that's something you're doing, or plant nutrients. You get what I'm saying, is that there has to be a ledger entry assigned to the cost as well as the contribution that's going into it.
Universally just determined by supply and demand, though, in terms of like what all this is. So my question, to like flip this on its head, right, is like, if you okay, if you go to a beach, how much does it cost you to buy a grain of sand?
$0.
Why?
Good question. Why? I don't have the answer, but why?
Because if you're on a beach, sand is in abundance. You don't need it, right? Whereas if you were to buy it in a township, right, you needed it because it's scarce, because you need it for some purpose. You need a sandbag on a set, right? So you're going to buy sand in a bag, and now those same grains of sand are gonna cost a lot more money.
I understand, but you're not paying for the sand. You know what you're paying for?
The shipping of the sand, and
you're paying for energy. That's correct.
So what I'm saying is, like, imagine a world, Jace, where, like, okay, do you feel like malls are serving a great purpose in this day and age?
No.
Okay, hold that thought. So let's not think about Amazon, right? And they own Whole Foods. When you go walk through Whole Foods, is it cheap to buy produce?
No, absolutely not.
Okay, and it continues to go higher with inflation. So we could then say that quality produce is scarce.
Mm-hmm.
In a town that had a Whole Foods, what would happen to the price of Whole Foods produce if the mall was abandoned and instead was used for aquaponics?
I'm thinking, well, okay, in a perfect scenario, right, where there's no problems and we have volunteers, right, the price would come down, right? But it's still, I'm still getting into my head about like the governance of it. How do you assign these tasks?
Let's run it. So, okay, so say you got to hire a staff, and their entire job is to then feed, basically for free, whatever produce people want, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you've got to hire and to grow and sell and distribute the free produce. My question is, do you think a Whole Foods still exists in that town selling produce at the price that Whole Foods currently sells it at?
Yes and no. And I'm gonna equate it to healthcare. All right, I'm gonna equate it to healthcare. I actually have a 1-to-1 equation to this, right? And this is off the top of my head because you hit me with a random question, right? Healthcare in Canada specifically, right? There's 2-tier systems, right? There's free healthcare and there's private healthcare, right? People who have a lot of money can skip the line. They can go and get what they need when they need it immediately, right? And arguably they can get better quality care, and arguably the better doctors are in the private sector because they're making more money, right? So it gets down to that, right? So at the end of the day, someone has to come in. The government is going to come in. They're going to buy them all. All right. They're going to spend the money to buy them all. They're also going to spend money to then transform them all. Right. And then they're going to spend the money to essentially hire the staff. right? So there is value going into this system. And now let's say that's all been done. All right. I'm going to give you a caveat, right? Let's just throw that away. Is the food going to be better? Is it? Because my next thing is the people that make the most amount of money, the people that have the money, all right, they're going to probably most likely still go to Whole Foods because the quality ultimately will be better because the private sector.
Or
yeah.
Do you think, what if instead of these real estate, so then let's pull the government out of it, right? Because we're turning into a socialist market. What about the business model then of leveraging a mall to do really high quality? So if you got private businesses into this and capital to run this very efficiently to manufacture whole foods quality aquaponic food, and within a community, because it becomes suddenly abundant for that community, and it's manufactured there. You don't need to ship it around the country. You don't need to do any of this stuff.
I buy into this. I got it.
So then it becomes significantly cheaper for households within that community. It's like the ultimate farmer's market, right? And you could just come in and you could do it like Costco style where they have a membership and you just come in and grab whatever you want.
I think this can work. I'm with you. All right. And the way it can work, right, is if we just come back to what I was saying at the beginning, which was energy. You're essentially removing the margins out of the business because you're removing the trucking, you're removing the packaging, you're removing the shipping, right? And you're decreasing margin, and you're putting that margin essentially back into the consumer's pocket, right? Because the reason why goods and services cost so much money is because it takes X amount of energy to get it there. So if you're removing all that supply chain, and you're now just focused on you come to this place to purchase the good where it's also grown and it's the largest farmer's market as you just said it is, I buy 100% into what you're saying. I think that's possible, and I think that's a great idea.
Okay. So then, like, everyone I find is getting very angry about the cost of, like, the rising cost of groceries. You walk through a grocery store, all of these things happen. You look at the packages on all of the things in a grocery store, and they're fundamentally absurd because they're all different. They're all specialized in a lot of branding and marketing and all of this stuff. When the truth of the matter is most of these things are repackaged, fairly easy to make commodities. And I'm just like, why aren't communities just getting together and just, destabilizing this supermarket monopoly that is just literally driving up, that's just a horribly inefficient business in this day and age?
Yeah. I mean, look, what it boils down to, we could circle the wagon on any discipline, right? It could be farming. It literally could be anything. It's ultimately going to come back to inflation.
We need to sit down and do that, because if you can't poke any holes in what I just said, and everyone is whining that there's no solutions to this problem, then I'm like, well, what the fuck? There's clearly some solutions.
We've been conditioned to be fundamentally lazy, though.
Oh, well.
What you're talking about, right? Let's just be very specific, okay? It's a great idea. All right, it's a great idea. I fully back it. And maybe if we moved into a community together, right? And you were the mayor. I have no interest in being the mayor, so you're gonna have to be the mayor. All right, I'll be your number two. Like, thank God. And by the way, let's be honest. I should never be the mayor of anything. So you're the mayor, all right? And I'm your number two.
You're gonna have to do the coding.
I'll code everything. I'll code everything, Sam. But that's the problem, dude. At the end of the day, it's not society's fault. I actually do not blame them. I'm not being judgmental. I genuinely believe that the introduction of the cell phone and what it's done to our ability to get things done has conditioned us to not do what you're saying. We are not prepared to put in the work to do it as a society.
And just think about how bad it's getting, right? So, like, think about the food you grew up with in a cafeteria in public school, right? And like the idea that, like, oh, we're going to give little Johnny a chocolate milk, and somehow think that is like a good idea. Chocolate milk, and then go sell them a bunch of like Nutter Butters and Twix and whatever you get on the one side while you're getting whatever they put on that cafeteria tray. And my guess is this is only getting worse in most places. And when you really think about that versus what it could be and what could be given out if anyone just applied basic science, and like literally, if there was any investment in the amount of money that is lit on fire in schools just in incompetence and inefficiency versus like systemic energy infrastructure and like doing any of what I'm talking about, the amount of waste is staggering.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, let's break that down, right? The reason why we ate so poorly, right? Let's be honest, it was cheaper and information abundance wasn't as pervasive as it is
And
now.
we were marketed to. If you really think about this, think about growing up. I was like 4 years old, and I thought Ronald McDonald was cool, so therefore I wanted to buy a hamburger from Ronald McDonald. Right? Do we think, knowing at the age that we're at now, that Ronald McDonald sells us the most nutritious hamburger?
Well, forget the nutritious part. I'm going back to inflation. A Big
Yeah.
Mac costs $16 now with a large fry and a Coke.
Yeah. So like that's
What
sixteen
happened?
dollars. So like so think about what happened there to even get like a like not only were we marketed to eat this awful hamburger versus something moderately healthy to begin with, right? So just that is the problem and what we were raised to do. But now we're now conditioned to think it's reasonable for that burger to cost $16. And
Mhm.
we certainly could never solve this problem because God forbid we decided to figure out how to grow our own food and put these things into boxes ourselves,
Mhm.
without like Tony the Tiger on the fucking box,
Mhm.
So like what I mean, when you think about the absurdity of all of our problems, like these are all very self-created just because I think we're dumb and we're lazy.
Yeah, I mean, dude, if you want to go further, you remember Joe Camel on
Yeah.
the cigarettes?
Yeah, man.
That
Like
was
marketing.
crazy.
But we all laugh at it because we're like, oh, we're not susceptible to marketing. We're totally susceptible to marketing. We're
Mhm.
marketed to all the time. All of our entire belief systems, are based upon the idea that like actually eating our sugar addiction, right? All of us are addicted to sugar, if you think about it, and like we've been convinced that somehow like our diet is reasonable.
Yeah. But by the way, let's bring it full circle because our marketing addiction, Roaring Kitty, bring that full
Yeah.
circle because like we just covered so much ground where this like actually is the through line if you think about it. Like we're addicted to this escape that's possible with what he's putting out there. If you really think
Oh,
about it, he's escape.
he that's what he's marketing. He's marketing I escaped and I can help you escape if you join with me to stick it to the man by investing uh in a video game stock.
Yeah. Man, man, like I mean
Write
everything we just
down,
talked about, right? Everything we
I
just talked
have this
about.
little fucking guy sitting on my desk because I thought
Yeah,
it was hilarious and cool because the marketing was awesome.
it's awesome. But man, like if we just like everybody's so angry, right? That's what it actually boils down to. Everybody's angry. Everybody feels hopeless. Everybody knows they're getting screwed, but they don't know what to do about it. This is the easiest layup in history. Whether or not we succeed or fail, we get to use our voice with our wallet and we get to come after Wall Street and say, hey, not don't do this anymore. Like stop it.
I mean, another easy layup would be to just go and take all the abandoned commercial real estate and turn it into community farms.
Yeah. Yeah. So Warren Buffett said something really great the other day because, I've been watching the commercial real estate bomb that still hasn't gone off yet, by the way.
Yeah, when is
And
that going to go off?
like any day, I mean, all those loans are now getting called in, right? All of them, because people were buying up commercial real estate thinking that the world was going to go back to normal, right? It didn't. And those places, I mean, look, just take a drive down into your major cities and look around. And I mean, San
But if you're a
Francisco, the
business,
reason
why would you be there? Like, why?
why would you be
Why
there?
would you? Like, why would you? It's not an accident that it's empty because, like, for real, why would you do it?
Yeah, why would you do that to yourself? I mean, San Francisco is essentially like it's the indicator. It's the cultural indicator of what's happening. And if you look at how that city is just falling apart, right? And I love that city. It's really sad for me to say that. And if anybody's listening from San Francisco, like I'm not just ripping on your city to rip on your city. I love San Francisco, but I mean, wow. I mean, restaurants closing, flagship stores moving, and it's not just San Francisco, it's California. Tesla left, Oracle left. Like major
Think about
major companies are
why
leaving.
they. The irony of it was the thing that made it possible for San Francisco to be destroyed was created by the companies that San Francisco was building So two things happened. So those tech companies, which empowered worldwide connectivity, so you don't have to work in an office anymore,
That's a good point.
Got made so much money that all of the people who worked there were like, why are we paying so much money to be in this stupid city? We could literally have this dumb tech job anywhere. And so I'm going to go move to Omaha, where it's way cheaper to have a house and have the same job and do the same thing. And so fundamentally, the technology that came out of San Francisco and that Bay Area and made it the richest city in the world was also the thing that has created this disaster of a situation that's happening there.
No, I agree with you, but like my hope, right? Because this isn't the first time the United States has been in a pickle, right? It's not the first recession. We went through, a world war where we came out of it. And, we had the greatest boom in history. Everybody calls the boomers because the economy boomed, right? It was awesome. What my hope is that innovation of some kind will spark our society back into ignition.
Well, I'm going to throw something else out, which is I think that's already happened. We're just used to only innovation happening in New York, Los Angeles, and San Francisco. But what if a lot of these mid-tier cities and a lot of these smaller cities that then had the influx, a lot of the technology and things that come there, there's a complete renaissance everywhere but these massively overpriced cities that actually really are just, supply and demand. There's no reason to be there, so everyone left.
No, that's a good point, right? But my question though is the Renaissance that you're talking about. It's always happened in phases of art and technology, right? Technology is so ubiquitous globally and so accessible globally that, Sam, I ordered an iPad last week online and it showed up at my door. It was announced last week and it showed up at my door 7 days later. If you really think about everything that had to happen to make that iPad sit right behind me, that's actually crazy. So my point being is, yes, I agree with you that there is a renaissance happening, but the model for the renaissance is inherently flawed now because technology has plateaued. So what's the next discipline outside of art that will drive society forward?
I think there's going to be a big pushback versus technology. I think the rebellious side is going to be going off the grid and being like, what we did, we went camping and we left our phones behind us. We got rid of all of our, devices. That's what crazy is going to look like in a little while. I think, and when you think about it, the real technology, we just define technology as being a device with a screen on it. But there's also technology in terms of biology, right? And plants and permaculture and all of these different things that you can literally design an area to live, how water comes to a city. If you think about what's really necessary, think about do you know anything about permaculture?
A little bit.
Okay. For those who don't, permaculture is basically the idea of leveraging light, soil, etc., to create things, right? To create biology. And that's at its core level what it is. But if you look at the way a modern city is designed and you think about how the water flows into a city, it's fundamentally absurd, especially because water likes to go like this and it likes to go in a spiral type environment, and yet all of our pipes have right angles and are straight, right? So the way that the water is fundamentally designed and that it comes through your sink by design is going to carry contamination with it. So it has to be over filtered. It has to have all of this stuff layered into it, right? So if you had to re-engineer a city, just even around how the water reaches the people in it and how all of these things start to happen, there's so much technologically that has very little to do with the screen, although AI might supervise some of this stuff, that could literally fundamentally change the way people live, just on a human level and the quality of everything they're experiencing, right down to how things are grown, all of these things. Just even changing the monoculture in the Midwest, which is literally turning the Midwest into a desert, into using regenerative agriculture, would be the largest breakthrough that has happened this century.
So I agree with you, but I have a very simple question for you. And if you can answer it, I'm going to bow down to you.
Don't do that.
How will people make money?
Okay. So, why do people need money? Let's start there. People need money because the basic necessities are scarce, right?
Mm-hmm.
So imagine a world where bicycles are no longer scarce. They're just everywhere. You could go and hop on a bike and drive and go and then get off. Then you just leave the bike behind because you could just get on another bike and none of them are locked. None of the stuff is there, right? Are you going to probably go buy a bicycle?
So I know where you're going with this, but my direct I need you to combat this first. Did you see what happened to Bird and Bird scooters?
Oh yeah, it was a disaster. Why? Because people are terrible, and that's why people can't have nice things, right? So you're going to have to level up humanity for some of this to work, right? And
Okay, fair
get
enough.
people to buy into a system. But fundamentally, my point that I'm making is about abundance, right? So people only spend money on scarce things. So if food was not trapped in a store, wrapped in little pieces of paper with people guarding it, which is essentially what a convenience store is or a supermarket is. And in fact, it was just available, because there was so much of it, because it was being farmed properly and it was happening properly. You wouldn't need to spend much money on it, right? So then you've got to think about shelter and you've got to think about water and you've got to think about all of these things. So for me, the reason everything is expensive is because it's scarce, because it has an inefficient supply chain, because it's farmed improperly, because the energy is not harnessed correctly, because it has to be imported from Saudi Arabia or wherever it's got to come from to meet these, to feed the consumers, to feed the beast, right? But imagine if it was just designed sustainably so that these things were less scarce, then the prices would be able to come down. So then money would become less necessary. But in terms of where these jobs would go, I would hire people to make the supply chain far more efficient than it currently is, because that would have the highest ROI.
So it's really funny you've said that. My boss asks me all the time if I could work on any like project right now, because like I love like building businesses. It's like my favorite thing to do. I keep on telling him if I could build anything right now, I was like I would build a supply chain vehicle of some kind. That's the only
Okay.
business I would focus on.
I mean, our supply chain sucks, which is why inflation's going up. I mean, well, part of the reason because it's also because we keep printing more money because we have to feed the beast because we have a global. Think about the absurdity of a global supply chain. Like when you really think about that, when all you really need are the raw materials, so you only should be sending the raw materials from place to place, so that if you don't have the raw materials grown locally, you ship those to those that need it, and you bring in the raw materials, and then manufacturing should be happening on the local level.
Do you know that was one of the major problems during the big COVID like supply chain breakdown? It was the materials, like the packaging for toilet paper, right? Like the wrap, the plastic that goes around toilet paper couldn't get to the toilet paper factory, right? The trees that they would break down to make the toilet paper. So it's not that there was a shortage of toilet paper. It's just the supply chain to get them all the raw ingredients to make the toilet paper. It couldn't happen.
Dude, for real, go to Jefferson, Missouri. It's Jefferson City, Missouri, which is the
Mhm.
capital of Missouri, and try and order a salad.
Okay.
Just like go and see if you can do it. I
I'll
did.
do it too.
So the only salad we were able to find is one of the little, and I used to work at Applebee's, so I know what these are. They roll up little like old ass salads, right? And they put it in a piece of plastic and they put it in a fridge, and then they take it out. The server unwraps it out of the plastic and dumps it in a plate. They throw in a couple like cherry tomatoes with their hands, and they bring it out to your table. And that's what you're going to get from a salad wise. And that's pretty much all that was there in Jefferson City. And when you think about what we really are, especially in a lot of the Midwest and places, like we are products purely of a supply chain that does not prioritize in any way, shape, or form freshness or like the amount of preservatives and the amount of things that happen. The only thing that matters is could it get on a truck and be shipped around the world, right? There is nothing remotely prioritized, and the people are a result of this, of like uh, anything holistic about what ended up on your plate. It's all like an absurdity if you think about it.
Yeah.
And none of what's in Jefferson City was made in Jefferson City.
Hmm. But you're sending me down rabbit holes in my mind because we've covered so much ground today. And what I keep coming back to is like if you solve energy, the energy piece, right? If that was like the one thing you were to solve, and we did have these microgrids in these communities, right, where you could essentially charge vehicles for free, and they were self-driving vehicles. You know, we're in the future a little bit, to where you could ship these goods and services across the country for literally free, right? There's no human being that's actually facilitating this. It's just the human being putting the goods inside the trucks, and they're driving themselves across the country. It would solve that supply chain problem.
Well, and the problem that we've got, right, is the problem with EVs, right? Not only the batteries are an issue in that they're hard to design, but also like people think, oh, I've got an EV, so therefore my energy doesn't come from anywhere, because they're implying that their energy comes from a renewable source, which it doesn't currently. So EVs only make sense if you have renewable energy that comes that's not being burned from gas or any of these other things. It has to come from a renewable source for these things to be practical, because that's the only way that this works, which is not the case. But no one's thinking like this. No one's thinking like, they just think the energy materialized. And so part of that, right, is Nikola Tesla back in the day, you know, JP Morgan, he was talking to JP Morgan, and, you know, Nikola Tesla had the idea of free energy, and JP Morgan's like, well, we can't do that, because then how would we charge for it?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh man, the Tesla Edison beef is one of the greatest unreported stories in history. You know, you just inspired me. I'm going to do a little bit more deep research on that and find every book I can, because that just sounds fun to look into. But yeah, man, you're absolutely correct. If they want to find ways, they being like, you know, the capitalists of the world, and I'm a capitalist, so I'm kind of being.
I'm a capitalist.
They want to find ways to charge you.
But the truth is, like, my personal view on humanity is I'm definitely not a communist, and I have a problem with capitalists for the sake of capitalism. But mostly what I think everybody should be in charge of themselves and leveling up themselves. And then we don't really need all of these isms, because they would eventually realize that in working together and figuring out smart ways to solve problems would result in the highest form of capitalism, which would then lead to abundance, which would then eventually lead to no necessitation for capitalism. The problem with communism is if you're expecting the mob boss to do all of this stuff, then they would fundamentally give up control of you, and then and so therefore there couldn't be communism.
Yeah. Man, sorry. What you were just talking about, you sent me into the revolutionary mindset, right? Because that's kind of where we are right now. It's almost like Napoleon's France, where we're revolting against, you know, everyone, and the guillotine's coming to the streets, metaphorically, if you will, and the victims being, you know, the hedge funds, as well as coming back to the isms, as you just said, is like, it's the downfall of the ism, right? It's like we as society need to come together and drive that to a more fruitful future.
Yeah, we should probably stop talking about isms and start figuring out how to convert malls into free produce.
Okay. Sam, we are getting close to an hour. I feel like you are just being prophetic, because that's going to happen, right? So why don't you close us out with a good prophecy, like a hopeful prophecy, not a negative prophecy. Give me hope.
All right. Here's, you want hope? Research hope. The Flower Rebellion, which was when in Czechoslovakia, the Russians told everybody to show up for war. They had to go to war, and basically everyone decided to come out of their houses and give the Russians flowers, and nobody got into a war. So when they tell us all to show up for war, everybody should basically hand the soldiers flowers and get on with their day and see what happens.
All right, so to ruin the ending, because that was beautiful, I just have to ask, because I have to, is how do you combat propaganda to be able to see that's what you should do?
Well, I don't think you should. Basically, the best way to combat propaganda is to realize that everything you're being fed that is outside of yourself is propaganda. And then you have to start developing critical thinking, you know, which is really what it boils down to, is like, who's profiting from me doing the thing that they want me to do?
You know what? I'm going to repeat that back to you, because you actually just got me. I'm going to use this every time in my new mode of thinking. I'm going to ask myself, who's making money off of this every time I see something, right? And it's just a little simple exercise. I'm going to try that moving forward. Who's making money off of this? And that's it. It's very simple.
Well,
and if I can't answer it, then maybe I need to do a little bit more research.
who's making money off of being told about GDP and consumers? Who's making money off of you deciding to walk into the supermarket and buy all of the food that could easily be packaged in a very...
Well, hey, Sam, I think that's going to do it for this episode.
All right, we're out. And then we're going back in time because next week's guest, Jonathan Sims, phenomenal. I hope that turns into a great interview. But if you want to talk about a group of people who live this way organically, that's their fundamental mentality is community driven. We're talking about some of that. They're emblematic of this. And of course, we never listen to the Native Americans.
Yeah, dude, that was a great episode. I already watched some of it. I started editing a little bit, just like getting in the mindset, and it's a great episode. I hope you guys tune in next week. We filmed 2 because I'm going on vacation, believe it or not. So that's going to be it for this episode.
Where are you going?
Where am I going? Man, I'm going all over. I'm going on a 10-day road trip, so I don't know where I'm going to wind up, but I'm sure you'll see a vlog about it. This is, I like to do that.
Dude, enjoy.
Yeah. All right. We'll catch you here next time on ELAV8. Peace.
Peace.